Everything is personal right here. Everything is personal right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal. And today, our guest is Christopher Terzakos. I try to say it with a good Greek accent. I don't think I succeeded.
You got it. You got it. You got it.
So I want to ask you a question. I've been reading a little bit about, your background, and we'll talk about your books and what you're doing now. But I was curious, how did you get a hernia in the first place?
Well, I got a hernia 14 years ago. And how I got the hernia was I was ego lifting at the gym. I was in my early 50s, and I was going through like some kind of change of life, midlife crisis, probably they call it. So I wanted to step up my game. So I started lifting heavier, and that's how I got my hernia.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm in my almost mid 50s, and I've been going to the gym, and I see this. First of all, subconsciously, I'm like, these guys are lifting a lot of weight. Let me lift some more weight. And then I start thinking about, I'm not in my 20s anymore. So I really wanted to let people know that, you have to be really careful and listen to your body. And if your body's telling you, it's, don't push it. So definitely makes a lot of sense as you're getting older. So when that happened to you, walk me through the process. Knock on wood, I've never had a hernia, never had any major. I mean, I have a torn meniscus, but that's from a different thing.
Right.
When I went through this process, so I'll use me as an example. I went through this process. I tore my meniscus, and I started going to different surgeons and doctors and orthopedists, and everybody gives me different. We'll cut it out. And one guy's like, oh, it's like a hangnail. I just go in there, clip it, and that's it. And I'm reading stuff. I'm like, hey, the body's not meant to have things cut out of it because it's going to respond to that. You have an immune response, scar tissue, all these other things. And then so I got exosome injections and all these other things. But I wanted to understand your journey as you started experiencing that. What did you do, and what did doctors tell you to do? What was the recommendation?
Good question. First thing the doctor did when he saw it, I mean, in so many short words, we got to set you up next week for surgery. I was like, really? He said, yeah, you need surgery. I said, okay, well, not next week because I need time to think this out. And I never had surgery in my life, other than stitches. I got stitches in my arm, my head. So I was like, let me think about it. He goes, you sure? He says, I said, yeah. So right away, he said, let's get surgery. I said, weeks later, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to figure out a way where I'm going to self-heal my hernia. And here I am 14 and a half years later talking about it.
So before we get into, you're writing a book on it, what did that entail? The first thing you did was made a decision. And I think it's really important for people to understand that you have to make a decision. Starts with your mindset, right? And then you work from there. So what was your process?
The process was first acceptance. The second, you just mentioned it, is positive mindset. And third, you got to be dedicated and disciplined when you're self-healing an injury. You can't go back out and go re-injure it again. So forget it. You can't do that. So yeah, acceptance, positive mindset, discipline, dedication, commitment to your injury, and then you'll get onto your healing stage.
But what was the actual process? Like those are the stages of that. But what did you actually have to do? Like, did you have to stop working out? Did you have to change the way you eat? Did you have to reuse, I don't know, cold, hot? What action did you have to take?
Okay, so yeah, I wrote about a few of the, there's 9 steps in the book.
Yeah, I want to talk about your book for sure. I'm just teeing it up so I kind of get a perspective on that.
Okay, the first thing that I did was I I bought a hernia belt. It's called a truss. Truss, a truss. I got a hernia belt. I think for the first 30 or 40 days straight, I was taking hot Epsom salt baths at nighttime before bedtime. And what that does is it decreases the inflammation of the hernia. Okay, and it was working. And it was like each day I took it, it was getting smaller and smaller. And then when I woke up every morning, I would put the hernia belt on, and I wore the hernia belt until I took my bath at night. So I wore the hernia belt, I don't know, 16, 18 hours during the day, which helps because the padding, there's a pad inside the belt. It pushes the hernia in. It's actually training the hernia to stay inside your body. And it was working. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is working. Now with the food, obviously, I've been eating healthy all my life. But food, it's good that you brought that up. Because if you're eating food that causes inflammation, the hernia will aggravate. It'll swell up. So you got to watch the food that causes inflammation. What foods cause inflammation? Milk, fried foods, which I don't have. I don't have milk. I don't drink. I don't eat fried food. So those are two foods that I know that causes inflammation.
So when you went through this process and you were able to heal your hernia yourself,
yeah,
what prompted you, or why did you decide that you want to write a book on your healing journey without surgery?
My wife. It was my wife who encouraged me to write the book because we're about self-healing, me and my wife. And we know that the body could heal itself. So when I did it and my wife saw the results, she was like, you got to write a book. She looked at me like shaking her head. You got to write a book. I said, really? She goes, yeah, because doctors are going out right away. Hey, you need surgery. And what is a mesh? What is a hernia surgery? It's a piece of mesh that they put inside your body. And, I don't want no foreign object inside my body for the rest of my life. So it was my wife who encouraged me to write the book.
What was the process like for you? Like, what did you have to do to sit down and actually write a book on this?
Everything that I did from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from each step. And then I talk about, each step that you do, how to do it, when to do it. And I go into, some detail. The book is very simple. I mean, I think a 7th or 8th grader could read the book. I made it simple as possible. All it is steps. And if you follow the steps, it could work. Now, remember, you can't go out and start lifting heavy shopping bags. You can't go to the gym and bench press 400 pounds anymore. You can't do stuff like that. My whole routine changed. My exercise, I still exercise 5 days a week. I got a 30-year-old body, got a six-pack still, but I don't train the way I used to train. Now everything's lightweight, a lot of reps, and I'm careful how I do things because I got a hernia. And you always will have the hernia. It's not like, the hole is going to close. The hole won't close. Right. Unless a doctor sews all the muscles together, but I don't know if they can do that.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And this analogy that you brought up is really interesting because it's people that have injuries, right? So like I've talked to people and I have a herniated disc in my back. Okay, well, unless in my neck, unless I actually have that fixed, it's always going to stay that way. But it doesn't mean that it's going to have to hurt all the time because it hurts because of inflammation. The muscles around it inflame and it pushes on it, then it compresses the nerve and all that stuff. You have to be aware of your limitations and your strengths and weaknesses and kind of work around that. Is that sort of what you're saying? Like you can follow the steps, but if you're going to still continue and not make life choices and life changes and modifications, then you can re-injure yourself?
Absolutely. You can injure yourself. Even if you got the surgery and you put the mesh, and you're going back to your old ways of lifting and you're not caring, guess what? You're going to tear the mesh, and then you're going to go back into surgery again because they have to repair it. So you got to change your life. Yeah, you got to change what you did before. You got to change what caused the injury. So you got to switch it up. Me, I'm happy. I go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm lifting. Not like before though, like I said, but I'm still in great shape, and it's working for me.
So I'm not detecting a very heavy Greek accent. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Little Italy, all Italians. I was the only Greek, and they used to tell me, put their arm around me and said, "You're only Greek by birth. When you're with us, you're Italian." So it's like always.
So little Italy in New York City.
Yeah, downtown Manhattan. That's where I lived. I lived in downtown Manhattan.
So tell me a little bit about your family dynamic. Were your parents together? Did you have siblings?
Yeah, good question. I come from a single family household. My mother and father got divorced when I was 7 years old. My older sister passed away. She died a marathon runner, healthy as ever, but she died running. And I have another brother and sister. And then I have another family, which I found out years later. I think I was like 15 years old. And my father introduced me to 5 more brothers and sisters that he had with another woman.
And he had those kids while he was with your mother still?
Yeah, he had them with my mother. So I have sisters and brothers like my age.
Interesting.
1 or 2 years apart.
How did that affect you? Like, first of all, being a single parent household, and then understanding, you have this relationship with your father, and then he's got a whole other relationship, and then you have siblings and all that.
I was fine with it. You know why? In life, we all make decisions and choices. And that's the choice he made. That made him happy. I'm with it. He's my father. You're my friend and you do something and you're happy, I'm with it because you're happy. So if that made my dad happy, made me happy, they're still in my life. 2 days ago was my birthday. Every one of them sent me a message. They called me, happy birthday. So they're family to me. They're family.
Thanks. Well, happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what type of kid were you? Were you into sports? Were you into school? Were you into science? Were you hanging out in the streets of New York?
Yeah, well, that's another good question. I was always into sports. I nearly became a professional baseball player. I had scouts. They scouted me out. I didn't listen to the coach. Who to this day I still love the guy because he tried his hardest, to push me through it. I didn't have a family that used to come to my games. My dad was doing his shit. My mother working 2 jobs. So they didn't come like the trophy night. It was MVP, all-star player. I got all these big trophies. I used to lie, at trophy night with other parents. Hey, congratulations. Where's your parents? And I would lie. I would say, they're working. I would come up with some kind of a lie. But when I used to go home with these trophies, I used to feel bad, that my parents are not here watching me, get these awards, I guess they didn't really realize how good of a player I was. But what happened was later on, I moved in to my grandmother's apartment on 29th Street at a very early age. I left my mother's house, and now I'm living alone. I was 16 years old, living by myself. My father paid the rent because it was his mother's apartment. He said, I'm going to pay the rent. Just make sure you go to school. And that's what I did. I was living by myself.
Yeah, I did the same thing. So my parents kicked me out. So I didn't have that choice, but that's a whole other story. But I talk to my dad every day now. We're good. So
okay, cool. Okay.
But So in doing that and being a almost a pro athlete,
Yeah.
you have discipline that you set up for yourself. So it sets you up for discipline in life. What were some of the challenges to maybe that were coming up for you that caused you, possibly not to pursue a professional baseball career?
I was hanging out.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with the boys, hanging out with the guys, not focused on my game. Actually, when I played baseball, during practice and games, I was like, I never thought about anything else, like no problems in my life. It was almost like my therapy when I played baseball. The moment practice or the games were over and I was on my way home, that's when I used to feel it. Like, just stuff I used to feel, growing up as a, guy from the streets, a lot of things run through your head. But when I played baseball, it was like therapy for me.
So I'm just curious. There's two things that come to mind, and number one is like people that have ADD, ADHD.
Yeah.
Like I was diagnosed with ADD when I was 14, but obviously it was as a kid I always had it. And when you can hyper focus on something that totally stimulates you. So when you're getting a dopamine squirt, you're
Yeah.
hyper focused. You don't do anything else. You're not thinking about anything else because you're like, give me more of that. And it's just this great interactive, now that you found something you're good at, you want more and you can become better. So that's one part of the possibility. The other part is, I don't know if you're familiar with flow state. So I took this class from Stephen Kotler who talked about flow. And when you find something that is in your flow state, you have the best neurochemistry that's secreted from your brain. So those two things happen. And then once you lose that, you're trying to find what is that next thing for you that's doing the same thing. Did you experience that? And if so, what was that next thing?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I know about the flow.
Yeah.
Because when you come out of the flow, now you got to try to get back into the flow. You know how hard that is?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
So you're better off just staying in the flow. And, in my case, I wasn't in the flow. I lost the flow. When I got back to baseball, I was trying to giddy up like a horse. It didn't work because street life. Remember, nobody supervised me at 16 years old. Nobody told me, hey, you better be home at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. I was coming home at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And, my apartment, 16 years old. Who does that at 16 years old? Not too many people do that. And then you got to go play baseball. And then you got the coach scolding me because he knew how good I was. And I'm responsible for not becoming a professional baseball player. I tell anybody that. Every show I'm on, I'm responsible.
But having that background in baseball, you still stayed in the sport at some level, right? Were you coaching?
Yeah. You must have read my book. Yeah, I did. I stayed with, close to the league that I played for. And how I got into coaching was I was with the president of the league. His name was Bobby. And Bobby said to me, Chris, I think we're going to have to do away with the senior division. Now, I said, why? Now, I know about the senior division. Senior division was between the ages of 17 and 20. Mm-hmm. Those are the most crucial times, Lenny, in every guy's life, 17 to 20. Because if you're on the streets in the summertime, you got to get away from drugs, alcohol, just late night activities. You might get caught up in some kind of gang. So I said to Bobby, you can't get rid of them. I said, that saved all of us. You got to keep these kids off the street. He goes, what am I going to do? We got no money and I don't have a coach. So I said, okay, good. I'm going to tell me how much do you need? He told me how much he needed. I went to the car. I said, I'm going to write you a check right now. You're gonna save this league, and you're gonna find a coach. He goes, who am I going to call? I said, I don't know. Appoint somebody. He said, who? And then I looked at him. I said, Bobby, are you serious? You want me to coach the team? And he said, it would be nice. He said, I can appoint anybody, but what good is it going to do? Just check. I might as well rip it up. So I said, all right, I'll coach the team. And that's what I did. I went out. I recruited players. What I did was I went to the street, got a bunch of street guys. I told them if they're all interested, they knew who I was in the neighborhood. I used to go to the park, play handball, basketball, so they got to know me. I went there. There was about 15 guys. I said, come here, I want to talk to all you guys. They all came together. And I said, you want to play organized baseball? They said, yeah. I said, did anybody ever play organized baseball? A couple of guys raised their hand. Yeah, when I was 11, when I was 12 years old. I said, okay, good. Now you're 18, you're 19 years old. You want to play organized baseball again? Sure. Meet me at the field. I told them what field to meet me at. And then I started putting a team together. And what I realized during practices, not all of them were going to make the team. I had to cut some of the guys because they weren't up to par.
Yeah.
So I went out and I went to like the really good Catholic high schools, and I started recruiting. Mm-hmm. And I recruited 5 solid pitchers because I knew I had no pitching. Mm-hmm. Okay, these guys could hit, they could field, they could play shortstop, but I need pitching. So I would scout them out. I would, at the end of their game, their high school game, I would, go over, introduce myself. Hey, I'm Chris, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to play for a summer tournament? I said, really, really, elite players. You would fit right in. And I got 5 guys to say yes. I put them together, Lenny, and street guys and the Catholic high school guys, they clashed. They did not respect each other at all. And I said, okay, I got to fix this. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start running. I'm going to throw barbecues. Let them get to mingle, invite some girls, get some of your girls, tell them to come, just to get their minds off baseball so they become friends. And it worked. Then I saw chemistry now helping one another on the baseball field. No more yelling at each other, calling each other's names, wanting to fist fight. Now they were hugging each other, helping each other. And that's how we won 3 consecutive championships.
Yeah, it's amazing. But, you have to have some practice in life to have those leadership skills to be able to see that in your life as you're progressing through your trajectory, your journey. You're on the street, but at some point you have to get your shit together, right, and become a leader in the world, and then be able to mentor other people. What was a moment for you, or did you have a moment for you where you said, you know what, I have to kind of get off the road that I'm on, get on this path, and become a leader?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, the baseball was a great experience, and then from baseball, I went into construction. Actually, I got into construction very early in age. I think I was like 17. My father saw me out of school because you couldn't learn in the school I went to downtown because you had all the gangs. You had the Latin Kings, you had the Yellow Dragons, the Chinese, you had the Black Panthers, you had all the Italians, which I was with the Italians. And then when you went to school, there was always an altercation somewhere. It could be over a cigarette. It could be because somebody stepped on somebody's sneaker. It's because somebody looked at each other the wrong way. It was ridiculous. And I told my father, Dad, I can't learn in school. This is ridiculous. Every day there's some kind of altercation. So I said, you need to sign me out of school. Can you sign me out of school, please? And he did. He says, you better get a job. So I went into construction. 5 years later, I became a leader of a big company, construction company. And, from that point on, I've been a leader since I'm 25 years old, or 26 years old. I've been a leader.
Chris, you just brought up such an interesting thing. I wanted to go back and emphasize what you just said. I went to school in Philly. I actually went to 3 public high school. So the first one was a charter school, but
Yeah.
I left that really quickly, and then went to a pretty bad, the same thing you described. Like, I don't think my parents understood. They never got it. My parents are immigrants. They had no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But school was dangerous. Like, you go to school, and sometimes I used to play hockey, and we got in a fight during hockey, and we're walking, we're going to breakfast in the beginning. We're not going to school. We're going to breakfast. We'll go to school later. And there's a guy walking down the street from us as we're walking to school, and he's like, "No, man, they're waiting for you." I'm like, "Oh shit!" And like my parents never understood. They had to get my boys and come out, and they never understood all that stuff. And every single day there was a fight. Sometimes it wasn't us. A lot of times it wasn't us, but sometimes it was. As you said, race fights, gang fights, belief, whatever it was. Could be over nothing, and you can't. It's very difficult to be in an environment that is constantly filled with stress. How do you learn in that environment? So I really think that's a really interesting dynamic that I don't believe that people are like. My daughter has no idea about that. She went to private school all her life. She had no idea. So I'm glad I got a chance to shelter her from that. But having that stressful. I think there's a positive and a negative. The positive part about it is you're aware of your environment always. If you travel or whatever, you don't have to tell me twice. I know exactly what you mean. I got to watch my back, be okay. But it's filled with stress. So going up like that, it creates a very stressful environment for you. And you're lucky you found sports to be able to deal with that. But what would you tell people to do if their kids? Because I've heard this all the time. Their kids are telling them, "Hey, I can't. My grades are not that good, but I can't study in school because I have to watch my back all the time." What do you say to like parents of kids like that?
It's tough, man. Like you said, and Philly's a tough neighborhood too. You're from Philly. There's a lot of tough guys come out of Philly. It's just tough, man. You just got to go with the grind. You got to, if you're in the trench, you got to get through the trench. You just got to get through the trench. You got to do it. Whether you like it or not, you got to do it. There was a lot of kids in school, Lenny, that were bullied. Oh, yeah. And I would go over to the bully and like say a guy named Chester. I'd go, "Hey, Chester, leave David alone. He's with me." Because that was an old saying. He's with me, leave him alone. And that's what we did. He was like, "Oh, I didn't know, Chris. Leave him alone. You're trying to shake him down. You want $2. He was asking for $2 a day. He goes, "David, when you come to school, bring $2 for me every single day." Are you shitting me? I said to Chester, "He's with me, man." David used to, come. Because a guy like that, David, used to help me in school on a test. He used to like show me some of his answers because he was a brain. So when you got a guy who's a brain, you keep him close to you. And that's what I did. So it's a totally different life today.
I know. All right, let's switch gears and talk about testosterone, because I'm super curious about that, because one of the top trends that's happening right now is a hormone replacement therapy. There are so many people that are getting testosterone, and once you're on it, you're staying on it for life. And then you have to get an estrogen blocker, and you change your lifestyle. So you wrote a book about this. How can you develop testosterone? And I think it's after 60 is your book, but even younger. How do you do that naturally?
Yeah. You did your research, Lenny, on me. I see that. This is a great topic, actually. This is a really good one. Everyone today, I think the high school kids, I think from what I did a study, I think it's 23% of the high school kids are on steroids.
Yeah.
They're playing sports, lacrosse, football, baseball. They're on steroids. Okay. What happens is, and I'm going to tell you from my experience, when you take steroids, when you come off of it, if you did steroids for a year or did steroids for 10 years, when you come off of it, your body's not going to produce natural testosterone. You're going to run into some problems. How do I know that? Because in my early 50s, changed her life, got the hernia because I was injecting. I was taking shit. You name it, I took it. Winstrel, testosterone, Anavar, I did it. So when I came off of it, 5 years later, my body wasn't producing testosterone. So how did I know that? I felt tired, depressed. Not depressed where I wanted to commit suicide, but, feeling down. I was looking for afternoon naps. Libido was low, wasn't interested in sex. So I went to a doctor, got a test. Tests, and both tests, Lenny, are in the book. That's a picture of me on the front cover. That was taken 8 months ago, and there's no Photoshop. People ask me, is that Photoshop? No, it's not Photoshop. My wife took that picture when I was at the beach. So anyway, my testosterone level come back at 81. 81's horrible. Okay? Your testosterone level should be between 300 nanograms and 500 nanograms at my age, between 3 and 5. If you're below 300, you got to go and work on your testosterone. So I was at 81. I was like, okay, shit. What does the doctor tell you? Doctor says, oh, you're a candidate for TRT. Make a long story short, you said in the beginning, I said, yeah, but TRT is for the rest of your life. That means I got to take a shot every week. I got to come and see you twice a month. I got to get my blood checked all the time. I got to donate blood every 3 months because your blood thickens. And if you don't donate the blood and your blood's thick, you're subject to a heart attack or a stroke. Your blood pressure goes up. You got high blood pressure now. So there's, a lot of different shit, a lot of different things when you're on TRT. Now, I do have to emphasize, I'm not against TRT if your body cannot produce it naturally. Some guys can't produce the testosterone naturally, so they have no other choice. That would be my last resort. If I can't produce testosterone, I'm going on TRT. Mm-hmm. And I know it's for the rest of my life, and then I have to do all those protocols. Donate blood, go to the doctor twice a month. I'll do all that. But I didn't have to. I went on my own program. I said to the doctor, I'm not going to go on TRT. Let me go through what I need to go through. And I told my wife, I'm going to work on this by myself. I want to figure it out how to do it. And I tried everything. I know what works. When I see commercials on TV, I know who's full of shit with their bullshit commercial. I know who's lying, and I know what works. And I could talk about it if you want to hear what works.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question. And don't give up everything. Give enough where people can go and get the rest out of your book too.
Okay. Well, I'll give you some basics.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll tell you what really works. The basics are vitamin D. Okay. If you can't get into the sun 30 minutes a day, then I suggest you go on either 5 or 10,000 IUs of vitamin D 5 days a week and 2 days off. You never take supplements 7 days a week. You gotta alert the body, and the body needs to know what it needs to do at least 2 days a week. So any supplement that I take, it's 5 days a week, 2 days off.
And the reason for that, Chris, is because I'm going to make a statement, but I'm trying to phrase it in a question. The reason for that, I believe, is because once you get a consistent anything, your body starts thinking, your brain is like, I don't have to do this anymore. You're exogenously doing it, so I can take it easy. Is that the reason why?
100%. You got it. 100%. The body needs to know what it needs to do. Okay, you're going to help it, but you don't need to help it 7 days a week, because now the body's going to rely on it 7 days a week.
Got it.
So guess what? Do 4 days. I do 5 days. Mm-hmm. 5 days on, 2 days off. You could do 3 days straight, 2 days off, and then the other 2 days. You could do that too. You could break it up any way you want. Right. So that's what I did. I did supplements 5 days a week, 2 days off. Vitamin D, very, very important is the vitamin D. Okay. Sleep. Now, these are the basics. Vitamin D, sleep. Why do I say sleep? Sleep, when you're sleeping, you're producing testosterone. And not only producing testosterone, you're also producing human growth hormone when you sleep. So you got to get a good 8 hours a night sleep. So if you can't get 8 hours, and maybe during the day you can get like a 20-minute cat nap, I recommend it. Go get a 20-minute cat nap, because sleep is so important. It's probably the best medicine is sleep. The best medicine. So eating healthy now. Here we go into the healthy fats. And the healthy fats, what happens is testosterone loves cholesterol. It feeds on cholesterol, but it feeds on healthy cholesterol. It won't feed on fried foods, milk. You know, that's not healthy food. Healthy food is olive oil. I'm going to get to the olive oil, but I'm going to name a few of them. Olive oil, avocado, omega-3, which is in wild caught salmon only, Brazilian nuts, pumpkin seeds. Why pumpkin seeds? They're extremely high in zinc. Zinc is very important to help increase testosterone, is zinc. So that's another thing that I do 5 days a week. I take a zinc supplement. Plus, I eat oysters once a week, because oysters are the best food for increasing testosterone. And what it does is, now I'm going to go into the chemistry of this, the androgen receptors. You have androgen receptors, shoulders, your neck, your chest, your legs. If those androgen receptors are not activated, I don't care. You can have 2,000 nanograms of testosterone. It's not going to work. So the androgen receptors have to work. And oysters is one food that'll wake up the androgen receptors. I have a supplement. It's called L-carnitine. This also will help increase the androgen receptors. They'll wake them up. A cup of coffee wakes up the androgen receptors. So once these androgen receptors are activated, now the flow of testosterone goes through them, through the blood, through the body, and now it sends the messages to all the receptors in your body. And that's very important to do. People really don't know about this.
No, that's great. I mean, I think all the things that you said, and I went and did my testosterone test, and I think it was about 360. And when my doctor's like, when it gets under 300, we're gonna have to start looking at TRT. Like I gotta. That's why I have you on too. You're my personal coach now, coaching me what to do. I'm cool. Maybe oysters is the one thing I don't do enough of, so I'm gonna try to increase my oyster amount. But zinc, carotene, I take every day. I take my supplements every day. Okay. But some of those things. And sleep for me has been a challenge. And it's not even the 8 hours, it's the quality of sleep, right? I rarely sleep for 8 hours, but if I get really good quality sleep, I feel it. But lately, stress. And I think stress is probably the biggest killer, because it creates all the cortisol in your bloodstream and actually blocks the ability for your body to actually produce some of those natural endogenous neurochemicals.
It does. I'm going to get to that now on the do's and the don'ts.
Okay.
What you don't do is you got to get rid of sugar. Okay. And like I said, anything that I say, I could back it up. The sugar, what happens with the sugar, it raises insulin. Now, when your insulin level goes up, what follows insulin? Estrogen. Yep. And between both of them, it blocks the flow of testosterone production. So you're not going to produce testosterone. Mm. Okay? Alcohol. You go out and you're drinking, guess what? You're just now, you're slowing down the production of testosterone. You're slowing it down. It won't stop it, but you're slowing it down. The estrogen will block it. Alcohol temporarily that night you're drinking, your testosterone level will be low. Now, I don't know if you know, the audience, your testosterone level is the highest in the morning and the lowest at nighttime. When you go to sleep, your body's producing testosterone. When you wake up in the morning, us guys, we wake up with, something stiff in the morning, right? That's the testosterone. So that's why in the morning, your testosterone is at the highest level in the morning, lowest, and during the day, it starts to decrease. Now, the don'ts, sugar. We talked about the cortisol. Cortisol is another hormone that we have that will block the flow of testosterone. You got to do something to keep the stress level down, something natural. I have two things here. I have one is called ashwagandha. You ever heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
It's all natural. And I have another one. It's called shalacha from India. This is all natural, plant-based. You don't need to go to a doctor and tell him that you're stressed out. He's going to give you pills. He's going to give you conventional medicine pills that are going to hurt your liver and your kidneys. This is natural stuff. So to keep your cortisol level down, I recommend those two supplements. You don't need to take them 7 days a week. Take them 3 days a week or 4 days a week. It will definitely help you decrease your cortisol, for sure. So those are the do's and the don'ts. Let's talk about the pollution. The pollution and the toxins. If you want to unbalance your hormones, pollution will do it. Radiation, microwaves, the Wi-Fi in your house, your cell phone in your pocket. The worst toxin is drinking anything out of a plastic bottle or eating out of a plastic. You're heating up something, leftover food in the microwave, you put it in plastic. Guess what? The toxin is now going in the food and you're eating it, and now it's going to harm your hormones, your testosterone. So I would recommend that you don't drink anything out of a plastic bottle. And it's a shame because, Lenny, you go to a supermarket, the Gatorade, everything is in a plastic container. You go buy, I don't buy salad in a bag. I buy salad fresh from Whole Food. They don't put it in the bag. It's organic. I buy stuff not in the bag. I don't want the toxin plastics. I don't want to eat them because I know what it's going to do to you. There's one more toxin that I'm going to talk about. Then nobody really talks about this. When you die, today's age, in my generation, they buried you. You went to a cemetery. But when you die today, they cremate you. You know how much toxin is in a dead body? So when they put you through the crematory and they come out through the furnace, all those toxins in your body now are in the air. Who's breathing that? Me and you. We're breathing those toxins. And nobody's really talking about that today, but it will come out. Sooner or later, this will be revealed that we're breathing toxins because of cremations.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. I never even thought about that, but definitely. I mean, I'm reading a book, or I just finished a book about. It's a Holocaust book about Auschwitz, and they were talking about generational trauma, and the people around the camps who lived there had a very high increase in cancer. And I think that's a great correlation between, the crematorium and what's being in the air and what people are breathing in. So I think that's a really interesting correlation. You already kind of brought up some like ashwagandha and some of the shilajit, but wanted to get your thought on plant medicine as a whole. What are your thoughts on plant medicine?
On plant medicine?
Mm-hmm. So plant medicine, it can be ashwagandha root, can be functional mushrooms, can be cannabis, can be psychedelics.
Yeah, I actually believe in psychedelics. I actually do believe in it. I think I know Joe Rogan talked about it on some of his shows. Yeah, yeah. If you could microdose psychedelics, which I did, I microdosed. Uh, Boy, you get a good picture. You see things different. You feel different. You just see everything clearer. Um, if you're stressed out, it reduces stress. It helps you sleep at night. Yeah, psychedelics, man, and it's going to be out there sooner or later. I know the government is not really liking it because a lot of doctors will probably go out of business, or they might open up a psychedelic office now. You can go get psychedelics from a doctor. But yeah, I'm for it 100%. I back it 100%.
Me too. What are you most excited about, sort of in the next iteration of precision wellness or personalized healthcare? What excites you?
What excites me? Well, I believe 2 months ago I was in the gym with my wife. I had my headset on, great music, classic rock and roll, Led Zeppelin, you name it, The Doors. And I looked at my wife and I said, you know, I'm so happy every time we come to the gym. I'm so happy. She goes, what made you think of that? I said, because I'm so happy. This makes me happy to be here. I got you here. My wife's in great shape too. You're here. You're beautiful. You're my wife. I'm in great condition. I got great music in my head. I love lifting these weights. I love doing what I'm doing here. It's like that excites me to do that. Lenny, I never ever was on the way to the gym and did I got to go to the gym today. I never in my life ever done that. Never. I was always happy to get there. I was always eager to get there to work out. That makes me happy.
It's amazing because I'm not like that all the time. There's sometimes I'm driving the gym and I'm mentally, I'm like, I'm just so tired, been a long day. I really don't feel like going. But then I convinced myself, but you feel so good afterwards. And you're going to go in the sauna. And this is your happy place. After you're done, you're giving yourself a reward. So being able to like dangle that carrot, that helps me overcome that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I identify to that because it's just so good for you, man. I mean, your dopamines are good, your serotonins are good. You look in the mirror, you look good, your insides are good. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that? Especially also eating healthy. Why wouldn't you want to eat healthy? I mean, I could be on this podcast with you for the next 4 hours. I mean, I got a lot to share, but there's one thing I want to share with you because I like when you said I'm your coach. I want you to go on B6 vitamin supplement.
Okay.
B6 Tonkat Ali, and I want you to go on Tribulus. Those three. You want to increase testosterone? You said your level was at 360.
Yeah.
Go on that and go back about 2 months, 3 months later. I bet you'll be close to 500.
So B6, Tribulus, and what was the third one?
Tonkat Ali. I have it right here. Right here. Tonkat Ali.
Got it.
It's on my website. If you go on my website, you'll see it's on my website. Tonkat Ali. I recommend B6, Tonkat Ali, zinc, and Tribulus. Those supplements right there will help increase your testosterone level.
Well, thank you, Coach. I'm going to get right on that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. There's another one that I left out. It's boron.
Yeah.
Now, you could get boron through meat. I eat grass-fed meat. I don't know if you eat grass-fed meat.
I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat in about 16 years. I don't eat sugar. I eat fish. Everything you said, but I don't eat meat and I don't eat dairy for the most part.
Good for you, bro. Good for you. Good. You got it down. That's it. Good for you. I don't know what kind of fish you eat, but some fish you got to watch because they say it's toxic.
Yeah.
I would stick to the wild caught salmon. I'm sure you agree with that, or herring fish. They're non-toxic fish. Those two fishes are non-toxic.
Got it.
Herrings.
Well, you brought up music, so I have a few music questions for you. Do you remember, and if so, what was the very first concert that you ever attended?
The very first concert. I'm going to say probably up in Woodstock. I went to Woodstock. I remember we got into a lot of fights, but yeah, it was Woodstock, up in Woodstock. Yeah,
That's a pretty memorable one for the first concert.
yeah. No, we didn't play games. Me and my friends, the guys that I hung out with, and including myself, we didn't play games. We're gonna go. We're gonna go large. We're gonna go big, and we always went big. Even in discotheques, when we went disco nighting on Friday or Saturday night to a disco, we went large. We bought the best suits. I mean, we made sure we were intact.
So what were the clubs that you went to back in the day in the city?
Well, I went to the Copacabana. I went to the Fun House where I first met Madonna. Madonna was, I think, 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She never danced with anybody. She would dance with a pole. If you asked her to dance, she had an attitude, so don't even go near her. But yeah, I went to 2001 Odyssey. If you watched John Travolta, I went to that nightclub in Brooklyn. Yeah, I've been to every nightclub you could possibly think of. Oh, there was one good one. It was called the Galaxy 21. Lenny, it had 6 floors.
Wow.
And one floor was like pool table, but the music was, rumbling. And on every floor, the music was tremendous. That was a good nightclub. I remember you paid $10 to get in, and you drank for free all night.
Wow.
I remember that was a good nightclub. That Galaxy 21. That was a good one.
Yeah, I hung out a lot in New York before Giuliani, but a little bit of after your time. But it was the Palladium was great. It was the old Studio 54 spot, but it became the Palladium, the Tunnel, the Underground, Roxy.
Right, I remember the Rock. I've been at the Roxy's.
Yeah, all those clubs.
Yeah, so you went to the city, huh?
Oh yeah, every weekend. All my family lives in New York. Some of my parents, they moved to Philly, but everybody else. My grandmother lived in 3rd and Brighton Beach in Brooklyn until she passed. And so
yeah, good neighborhood there down there. I used to go to Coney Island all the time.
It's all the Russian, Russian, Soviet, and whatever immigrants lived in that.
And area. They got the best Italian restaurant in all of New York. Nobody really knows about this restaurant. It's called Gargiulo's. It's right there in Coney Island on 15th Street. It is the best authentic Italian food that you could possibly eat at. Gargiulo's.
Amazing. All right, so one more music question for you.
Yeah.
In the next year, you can only listen to 5 albums, and you don't have to remember the name of the actual album. It could be like you said, Led Zeppelin, whatever. What would be those 5 albums?
Well, definitely would be Led Zeppelin. I love The Doors. I love all. I love all. I love Pink Floyd. I love Bad Company. God, I could keep going on and ramble on all these rock and roll bands.
One more.
I'm gonna throw you for a loop. This is not a rock and roll album. I would want to listen to the John Travolta album from Saturday Night Fever.
Oh yeah, that's the greatest. It's the Bee Gees, man.
Yeah, the Bee Gees.
That's probably the best soundtrack of all time.
Yeah, I would want to hear that. I would want to hear that because that brings back so many memories. That kind of music.
Okay, so last question. Please describe what your room looked like growing up.
My room?
Yeah.
Please describe what my room. Well, I know that I had a lot of posters of Mickey Mantle in my room. Mm-hmm. Mickey Mantle. I had all my trophies in my room. So I had Mickey Mantle on the walls, a lot of Yankee stuff. because I'm a New York Yankee fan, obviously.
I was just going to ask you about that because were you Yankees or Mets? Because now they're playing the Dodgers. So
Yeah, no. I mean, I watch all the games too. My wife and I were watching all the games with Cleveland. Yeah, I'm a true diehard Yankee fan. I have actually on my front plate, I have a Yankee license plate on the front of my plate on my truck. So yeah, trophies in my room. A lot of posters. Mickey Mantle was my guy back then when I was a kid growing up. I had a couple of like professional baseballs that I caught at the stadium when I was at Yankee Stadium. I think I had 2 or 3 balls that I caught. So that was my room. And my room always was neat. I'm a neat freak.
yeah.
My drawers, my bed, everything was folded. Like you would think I was in the military. So everything was neat in my room. And if you touched my shit, I would really get pissed off at you for touching my shit. Don't move my shit.
Where do you think you got this whole need, like having everything systematic from?
I don't know. I think they call it OCD, right?
I don't like diagnoses, but yeah, it's something.
Yeah, it's OCD. I'm like that with everything. My truck, if you open the door the wrong way, you shut the door, I get pissed off. Watch how you close the door to the truck, So yeah, it's called OCD. I know I have it.
Got it. Chris, where can people find out more about you? Where can they engage with you? Where can they, get your books, whatever you want to share?
Well, healingwarriors.com is my website, healingwarriors.com. I'm on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. I have a lot of content, a lot of shows. Obviously, your show is going to be on YouTube on my channel. So yeah, healingwarriors.com. You can find me, my phone number, my contact, my calendar. If you want to book a session with me, yeah, healingwarriors.com is the best place to find me.
And for my audience, I want to thank you for staying with us. You obviously enjoy the content if you stay this long. And I also want to say thank you for all the wonderful reviews. I mean, it's been fantastic to read the impact that, our show is having on people's lives. So I appreciate that. Thank you for buying my book, Making Cannabis Personal. And even if you don't have a great review, leave it anyway. I'll use it as a learning experience. So I appreciate it. Chris, I really want to thank you so much. It's been an enlightening experience for me, and I'm sure it was for my audience. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me on your show. Thank you. You're a great host.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching and listening. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this episode, and hit that bell. Like, comment. I so appreciate that. And check me out on social under Len May or Len May DNA. Find out more on LinkedIn or lenmaycoaching.com. And remember, everything is personal.